Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today's deep dive is going to be all about embracing change.
Cool.
We asked you to bring us a tarot spread focused on change, and you definitely delivered
Absolutely.
the Fallen Leaf spread.
I like it.
It's so evocative, even just the name,
Mhm.
and it's giving me chills because it's like nature's own little reminder to let go of what's no longer serving us, right?
It really is. It's a beautiful analogy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just like leaves turning golden and dropping away, making way for new growth. This spread encourages us to do the same.
Yeah, and it provides some guidance, which I think is always helpful. So to give a little context, this spread uses the cards to answer some specific questions about change and renewal.
Okay.
And the first one that we're going to dive into today is what belief or habit has reached its natural end?
Okay.
We're talking about those things that we might be clinging to, even though they've kind of outlived their purpose.
Right.
And to help guide us with this, we have not one, not two, but three cards. We've got the Hanged Man, the Eight of Cups, and of course, a little sass from the Sassy deck.
3 perspectives to get us thinking.
Yeah.
I like it.
So let's start with the Hanged Man.
Okay.
Because this card, for me, when I see it, I often think about, like, being in limbo,
Yeah.
waiting for the right moment, like waiting for all the pieces to fall into place.
Absolutely. That peaceful stillness.
Yes,
Yeah.
but there is a sense of you can wait too long.
Absolutely. And I think that's what the Hanged Man reminds me of.
Okay.
Is that like we can wait for the perfect moment to act, but sometimes that waiting, it becomes its own form of procrastination, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
Like that last leaf on the tree, just like swaying in the wind, afraid to let go.
Yeah, and I think that's where the Eight of Cups comes in.
Okay.
It's not just about being stuck, but that emotional weight of holding on to something that's no longer fulfilling. The imagery of the Eight of Cups is so evocative.
It is.
Like, you really see that walking away from something,
Hmm.
even if we can't quite see what's ahead.
And what always strikes me about this card is there's a sense of relief on the figure's face.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like letting go, even with a heavy heart, can open up a new path forward. Now, how do we tie all of this in with what the Sassy deck has to say? Because
Okay.
this one made me laugh.
Oh, good.
That thing you're holding on to, yeah, it's expired. Let it go.
The Sassy deck doesn't sugarcoat anything,
No.
but it's a good wake-up call, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Like, what is past its prime?
Okay.
And are you still holding on?
Like that carton of milk in the back of the fridge.
Yes, exactly.
You know, you should probably toss it.
Yep.
But you're like, but maybe.
One more sip.
One more sip.
Yeah.
Exactly. And sometimes we do that with beliefs or with relationships or even jobs that are no longer really nourishing us.
Exactly. And they might be doing us more harm than good.
Yeah.
Holding on, yeah.
So we've identified some things that might be a little past their prime, right?
Right.
But how do we actually, like, release those things?
Yeah, that's a great question.
What do we do?
It can be tough.
Yeah.
I think that's where that second question in the Fallen Leaf spread comes in.
Okay.
Because it really dives into this idea of emotional baggage,
Okay.
that we carry around with us.
Mm-hmm.
And it asks, what emotional or energetic baggage do you need to release?
Ooh, that's a good one. So what cards are we looking at here?
Okay, so for this question, we've got the Ten of Wands,
Okay.
we've got the Five of Cups,
Hmm.
and to no one's surprise, the Sassy deck.
I was going to say, I was like, where's the Sassy deck come in?
The Sassy deck always has something to say.
They've got it. All right, lay it on me.
Okay.
Let's do this.
Ten of Wands.
Ten of Wands. When I
Yeah.
see that card, I'm just like overwhelmed.
Yeah, it's not a lighthearted card.
No, it's heavy.
Yeah,
It's like carrying the weight of the world.
totally. That feeling of being so overburdened, right? Like we're carrying the weight of the world, the weight of everyone's expectations.
And you're like, I don't even know if I can hold on to all these wands.
I know. And it's like you're afraid to drop any of them,
Yes.
but it's too much
It's too much to carry.
for one person
Yeah.
to handle.
And that's, I think, where that Five of Cups comes in. Because it's like you're holding on so tight,
Yes.
but you've already spilled some.
exactly.
You're still trying to, like, grasp.
And it's that emotional toll, isn't it?
Yeah.
That holding on to all that weight takes. And we see that represented by the spilled cups.
Yeah.
Those past disappointments, the regrets, the what could have beens.
And it's so hard not to look at what's been spilled,
Right.
but we're still holding on,
Yeah, it's like we think if we just hold on long enough, maybe we can refill those cups somehow.
Yeah, put the milk back in the carton.
Right,
It
exactly.
doesn't work that way, but
No.
we try.
It's very human, though, isn't it?
Hey.
To want to hold on to what's familiar,
Yes.
even if it's hurting.
And it's comfortable, even if it's painful.
It's
It's
comforting.
what we know.
Exactly. And this is where I think the Sassy deck would jump in and be like,
All right.
what are you doing?
Give it to me straight.
Why are you carrying all that? It's not even yours.
Oh, what do you mean it's not even mine?
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, right?
Yes.
Because the sassy deck here is pointing out that often
Okay.
the burdens that we're carrying
Mm-hmm.
don't actually belong to us.
Okay.
It's like we're carrying around other people's luggage.
And we didn't even sign up for this flight.
We didn't even check the baggage claim,
No.
right?
Wow.
So the sassy deck here is urging us
Okay.
to put that luggage down,
Yeah.
set some boundaries,
Okay.
focus on what we can control, our own thoughts, feelings, and actions.
So we've talked about what we're holding on to and the weight that it creates.
Right.
And even unpack this idea that some of this might not even be ours to carry, but how do we actually release this? Where do we even begin?
That's where this last card in this spread comes in. And it offers a really, really powerful message about transformation.
So we've talked about what we're holding on to and the weight of it all.
Yes.
And even unpacked this idea that some of it might not even be ours to carry. But the big question is...
The big question, yeah.
How do we release it?
How do we let go?
How do we embrace change?
Right. How do we do it?
And hopefully this last question in the Fallen Leaf spread can kind of give us some guidance here.
I think so.
How can you embrace change with grace?
With grace, I like that.
Grace. Yeah, because it can be...
It's not always graceful, is it?
It's not always pretty.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's messy. And
Yeah.
so what cards are we looking at here to help us find that grace?
So we've got the Death card.
Okay.
We've got the Star card.
Mm-hmm.
And one last word from the sassy deck.
Of course. I should have known.
Of course.
All right. Death card.
Death card.
Always makes me a little nervous.
I get it.
But I'm ready to hear what it has to say.
Good. Because it's not always as scary as it sounds.
Okay. Because in the movies, it's like literal death.
Yeah, no, in tarot, it rarely represents an actual physical death.
Okay.
It's much more about transformation,
Okay.
endings that then create the space for new beginnings.
So more like a metamorphosis.
Exactly.
Like a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
It can be a little bit uncomfortable.
Maybe a little messy, right?
Yeah, messy.
Yeah.
But it's about shedding the old, making way for the new.
So what are we shedding?
Shedding those outdated beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
those habits that are no longer serving us, making way for something new to emerge.
And it all comes back to that image of the falling leaves.
It does, doesn't it?
Like it seems like they're dying, but really they're just like
Transforming.
going back to the earth, becoming something new.
Exactly. And they're providing the nutrients for new life to grow,
That's beautiful.
isn't it?
And that ties in perfectly then to the star card, because then it's like hope and renewal.
Absolutely, because the star follows death in the major arcana, representing that light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay.
So we go through the transformation of the death card,
Mm-hmm.
and then we come out the other side,
Yeah.
and we see the star.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's about trusting that even in the midst of change
Yeah.
and uncertainty,
Which can be really hard,
it really can.
especially when we're going through something where we're like, I don't even know what the next step is.
Absolutely.
Like, just have faith.
Have faith, and the star is a reminder of that.
It's like the universe has got you.
The universe has got you.
Just keep going.
You're on the right path.
All right. I like it. What about the sassy deck? What's the final word?
The sassy deck says stop fighting it. You're just making it harder on yourself.
I feel like I needed to hear that.
Sometimes we all need to hear that.
Yeah.
Just surrender to the process.
Just that resistance.
The resistance.
You know, to change that actually makes it harder.
Exactly.
Okay, so if we can like let go a little bit more,
Let go, surrender, allow.
that it's all going to work out. Because the thing is, it's going to happen anyway.
Exactly.
Whether we fight it or not.
Change is inevitable.
So we can choose to like go with it.
Flow with it.
Yeah.
Ride the waves.
Or we can dig our heels in.
And get tumbled by the waves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Fallen Leaf spread,
Yes.
what would you say is like the most important thing for our listeners to take away from these cards?
I would say this. Embrace those natural cycles, just like the falling leaves.
Okay.
It's about releasing what no longer serves,
Yeah.
trusting the process of transformation, and having faith
Have faith.
that something beautiful is waiting to emerge.
On the other side of that change.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Thank you.
So to everyone listening, as you reflect on the Fallen Leaf spread and its messages, I want you to ask yourself,
Yes.
what am I clinging to? What needs to fall away?
Ooh, good questions.
And how can I embrace those new beginnings?
Love it.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep turning over those new leaves.
Welcome to this deep dive.
And we have some pretty interesting source material to get into this time.
Yeah, a tarot reading.
Ew.
And not just any tarot reading. This one's inspired by the Harvest Moon.
And you know me, I'm always up for exploring new ideas. And this time of year, it always just has this like reflective quality to it.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
It's like nature itself is prompting us to, like, take stock, you know?
Absolutely.
Think about what we've cultivated, what we might be ready to let go of.
And that's where the symbolism of the tarot cards, I think, becomes even more potent.
Because we're not talking about, like, predicting the future here.
Right.
But using the cards as this lens to understand, the cycles we experience, the transitions we go through.
Almost like a roadmap, not one set in stone.
But one that offers, like, potential paths for growth and reflection.
Yeah, and like any good roadmap, I think you gotta start with where we are, right?
So the first card in this Harvest Moon reading asks,
what phase in your life is coming to a close?
okay,
And the cards drawn for this, we've got death.
the Tower.
And then, of course, our friend the sassy deck jumps in with, you're beating a dead horse, let it go already.
3 very different expressions.
But they all speak to, I think, the same essential truth. Endings are inevitable.
And think about the Harvest Moon itself, right? It marks the end of the summer's bounty.
It's a time when farmers gather what they've grown and they prepare for the winter ahead.
And the Death card, it often gets kind of a bad rap.
But in tarot, it rarely signifies, like, physical death.
Instead, it points to transformation, a necessary shedding of the old to make way for the new.
It's interesting you say that because when I think about past harvest moons,
there's always been this element for me of letting go,
It might be a project that's run its course, a relationship that's no longer serving me.
Even just like a way of thinking that's become outdated.
And sometimes, just like that sassy deck bluntly reminds us, we hold on too tight, even when it's clear something has reached its natural end.
And that directness from the sassy deck, I think, is quite fitting.
Because just like during the harvest moon, nature itself doesn't waste time.
It's a call to be decisive, to recognize what needs to be released so that new growth can emerge.
It's funny how a deck of cards can offer such poignant reflections.
But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, we have another card to explore, one that delves into the lessons learned from this ending.
So the second card in this reading asks, what lesson have you learned that you can carry forward?
And the cards drawn are, I think, quite compelling.
The Hanged Man.
Yeah, the Judgment.
And naturally, our sassy deck friend chimes in with, newsflash, you've been your own biggest obstacle. Don't make the same mistake twice.
So we've acknowledged what's ending.
And now we're diving into the wisdom gained.
The understanding that emerges from transitions.
And the Hanged Man, often depicted, suspended upside down,
speaks to the power of surrendering to a situation.
of shifting our perspective to see things from a new angle.
It's almost like that feeling when you're hanging upside down on the jungle gym as a kid.
Everything looks different, doesn't it?
Precisely.
And sometimes it's in those moments of feeling suspended, of willingly letting go of control,
that we gain the most profound insights.
Now, alongside the Hanged Man, we have Judgment.
Which isn't about being judged by, external forces.
But rather a call for self-reflection.
It encourages us to examine our choices, our actions, the values that have guided us to this point.
That really resonates with this Harvest Moon theme, doesn't it?
It's like we're taking stock not just of what we've grown externally, but also how we've grown internally.
And of course, we can't forget the sassy deck's rather pointed advice.
Don't make the same mistake twice. I know, I'm laughing, but there's a real truth to that.
Especially when we're talking about personal growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Recognizing our patterns, the choices we make.
Both helpful and not so much. That's how we refine our path moving forward.
It's like tending a garden, isn't it?
Each season, we learn what thrives,
What needs more support.
maybe what we shouldn't plant again.
And speaking of moving forward, this Harvest Moon reading has one more question for us.
One that feels very fitting as we approach, the end of the year.
Okay.
How can you move forward with clarity?
And the cards drawn for this final question are the Fool.
The Ace of Swords.
And you guessed it, the sassy deck delivers once again with, quit overthinking it. You already know what to do, so do it.
There's a real sense of momentum building in this reading, wouldn't you say?
We've looked at what's ending, gleaned wisdom from the experience.
And now these cards offer a way to kind of step into that next phase.
Let's start with the Fool.
Often depicted at the edge of a precipice.
He's not afraid of the unknown. He embraces it.
This card reminds us that sometimes moving forward with clarity means taking a leap of faith.
I'm picturing that feeling of diving into a cool lake on a hot day.
Sometimes you just got to trust yourself and go for it.
Exactly.
And sometimes that blind trust.
Is all we need to kind of break through our own hesitation.
On the other hand, we have the Ace of Swords.
Which offers a very different approach to clarity.
Swords are associated with the mind.
With, like, intellect and decision-making.
The Ace of Swords signifies a breakthrough in thinking, a moment where the fog clears.
And we see our path forward with sharp, decisive clarity.
So if the Fool's about trusting your gut,
the Ace of Swords is more about trusting your head.
That moment when you've gathered all the information.
And suddenly the right decision kind of reveals itself.
Precisely.
And then, of course, we have our sassy deck friend.
Cutting through the esoteric with a characteristically blunt message.
Quit overthinking it.
Sometimes the answer is right there in front of us.
We just need to get out of our own way and take action.
You know, what strikes me about these three cards together
is that they represent, like, different aspects of how we approach new beginnings.
The Fool encourages us to embrace the unknown with a sense of adventure.
The Ace of Swords reminds us to seek understanding and clarity.
And the Sassy deck.
Well, it's that little voice telling us to stop analyzing and just start doing.
And maybe, just maybe, we need all three.
At different times on our journey.
What a beautiful observation.
It's not about choosing one approach over the other.
But rather recognizing which energy, that adventurous spirit,
that intellectual clarity, or that, like, take charge attitude,
might be most helpful in any given moment.
It's almost as if this Harvest Moon reading is encouraging us to assemble a toolkit of sorts.
Drawing on different strengths as we navigate the transitions ahead.
Precisely.
And perhaps that's the real magic of working with symbolism like tarot.
It offers us a new language.
A new perspective from which to view our own experiences.
I love that. A toolkit for navigating transitions. That's a fantastic way to think about it.
And you know, as we've been talking about these cards, I keep coming back to this idea of the Harvest Moon itself.
It's a time of culmination, of reaping what we've sown.
And also a time of preparation for the quieter months ahead.
It seems like this reading reflects those themes beautifully.
It does, doesn't it?
There's a natural rhythm to life.
A cyclical flow of beginnings and endings that the Harvest Moon so perfectly embodies.
We've explored the letting go symbolized by death.
The perspective shift of the Hanged Man. The introspection of judgment.
All of these cards, I think, point to that cyclical nature of our experiences.
And just as farmers gather the harvest.
And prepare the fields for winter.
Right.
We, too, are invited to take stock of what we've cultivated this year.
That we're ready to release.
And what seeds we want to plant for the future.
Those seeds, of course, are represented by the cards that guide us toward clarity.
The Fool's leap of faith.
Yeah.
The Ace of Swords' clear vision.
And the Sassy deck's call to action.
You know, when you mentioned the sassy deck earlier,
I couldn't help but smile.
It's such a wonderful reminder that sometimes the most profound wisdom
comes in the simplest,
most direct forms.
It's that voice inside of us that says,
enough with the analysis, just go for it.
It's the friend who gives it to you straight.
No sugarcoating.
But in all seriousness,
I think the sassy deck's message is crucial.
Especially in the context of the Harvest Moon.
It's a time for decisive action. For letting go of what no longer serves us and stepping boldly into the next phase.
It's about trusting ourselves.
Our intuition.
And the wisdom we've gained through our experiences.
And that sense of trust, that willingness to take a leap.
Whether it's a fool's leap of faith
or a sassy deck just do it moment,
is often what propels us toward growth and transformation.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
From the symbolism of endings and lessons learned.
To the different ways we can move forward with clarity.
As we wrap up, is there a particular card or theme from this Harvest Moon reading
that stands out to you as particularly relevant for our listener?
What I hope our listener takes away from this is a sense of empowerment.
These cards, this reading, it's not about fortune telling
or predicting the future.
It's about understanding that we have agency in shaping our own lives.
We have the power to choose what we harvest from our experiences, what we release, and what we nurture for the future.
This Harvest Moon,
and every transition we encounter,
is an opportunity for growth, reflection, and conscious creation.
It's like we've been given this beautiful map.
Not of the territory itself,
but of the inner landscape we all navigate.
And within that landscape, we always have choices to make, paths to choose, and lessons to learn.
Exactly. And the more we learn to read our own internal compass,
the more confidently we can navigate those paths.
And embrace the cycles of growth and change that life inevitably brings.
And on that note,
I think we've reached a beautiful point of completion for this deep dive.
To you listening, thank you for joining us on this exploration of the Harvest Moon.
Tarot symbolism.
And the power of self-reflection.
May you navigate your own journey with clarity, purpose.
And perhaps a touch of that sassy deck boldness.
Until next time. All right, so get this. We're diving into Thanksgiving, but with a twist, you know. You sent us your Cornucopia tarot spread. And honestly, this is not your average card game. We're talking abundance, but not just like the Thanksgiving feast kind of abundance. We're going deeper than that, like where you might be overdoing it, what you can maybe let go of, and how to find that good for you, soul-satisfying abundance. You know, the kind.
Exactly.
Especially with the holidays coming up.
Yeah, and it's so interesting how tarot and Thanksgiving, kind of like two different things, right? They actually like really complement each other.
Totally.
One's all about reflecting, you know, looking inward, and the other is all about gratitude.
Right.
But both of them have this like underlying theme of abundance, and sometimes, you know, it can be a little too much.
Oh, absolutely too much.
Yes.
But Thanksgiving is great and all of that.
Yeah.
Between the food and the family and just like the pressure of making it picture perfect, things can get.
A lot.
And
Speaking of a lot, this first card in your spread, very telling, I think. The Ten of Wands. So this card usually means some kind of overwhelm, like you are juggling way too many things.
Yeah.
Like almost too much to handle.
For sure.
Like you're trying to carry all those Thanksgiving dishes at once, and you just know something's going to fall.
Yeah.
So think about your own life right now. Are you saying yes to every single thing? Volunteering for stuff that you really don't have to do? You letting everyone just pile stuff on your plate?
Okay.
Yeah.
So last Thanksgiving, I volunteered to make 3 pies from scratch.
Oh, that's...
3. Why did I do that? The kitchen was a disaster, and I was like, I don't even think I slept. Like, I was a walking 10 of wands, completely burnt out before we even sat down to eat.
Yeah. It's so easy to fall into that trap, but just recognizing it is huge. And speaking of patterns, this next card's a really interesting one, I think, especially for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
It's the Devil card. And before you think we're like summoning demons here, it's all about symbolism.
Right.
So the devil often represents like unhealthy attachments,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe family traditions that we're holding on to, even if they really don't serve us anymore. Or, you know, that pressure to overspend on gifts or food just to impress people.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about this from the Sassy deck? This one made me laugh. Guess what? You're a hoarder of emotional baggage. It's like so blunt.
The Sassy deck doesn't hold back.
No, it does not.
But it does make a good point.
Yeah.
Like, we can hoard material things. We can also hold on to emotional stuff, like old hurts, grudges, things we just can't let go of.
Yeah.
And a lot of times those things come up during the holidays, especially with family.
Though tell me about it. Every year, my aunt brings up this one time I forgot to send a thank you note for a birthday present when I was 8. 8, like, come on.
And that is exactly the emotional baggage this card wants you to think about.
Okay.
What are you holding on to? That isn't doing you any good. How could letting some of that go, especially now, you know, around the holidays, how could that make more room for joy and connection?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've uncovered some areas where we might be overdoing it. Maybe had some like, ooh, too real moments. But the point isn't to feel bad about it.
Right.
It's about noticing those things so we can, like, I don't know, make some space.
Yeah.
Find a little more balance.
Absolutely. Awareness is key, right?
Yeah.
And the cards in this part of your spread, they give us some clues about how to, like, release what's not working anymore so we can find that balance. Take the Four of Pentacles, for example.
Yeah.
This card usually means there's this fear of scarcity, like this need to hold on tight to what we have. Could be stuff money, even control over, like, how the Thanksgiving sides get made.
Oh my gosh, the control. My grandma used to practically stand guard over the gravy boat.
Exactly.
Like nobody better touch it.
And that need to control every little thing, especially around the holidays when we want everything to be perfect, it can really backfire.
For sure.
This card makes you ask yourself, where am I holding on too tightly? What if I loosened my grip a little? Trusted that things would be okay, even if I let go of some control.
Yeah, it's like when you try to cram one more Tupperware into the fridge.
Yeah.
And it's already overflowing. Sometimes you just got to make some space.
I love that analogy.
Right.
It's so true. And speaking of space, this next card is all about feeling trapped or limited. It's the Eight of Swords. And it's not always the most fun card to see,
Okay.
but it can be really helpful.
Okay.
You know how sometimes you feel stuck, like you're at a family dinner and you're stuck at the kids' table, even though you're like way too old for that,
Oh, yeah.
but something's keeping you there.
Totally.
It's that feeling of being boxed in.
Yeah.
And often it's our own thoughts and beliefs that are boxing us in more than anything else.
Interesting.
This card is like a challenge to question those limitations.
I see.
Are they real or are we making them up?
Right, like are we getting in our own way?
Exactly.
And maybe the sassy deck can give us a little push in the right direction.
Yeah.
This card just says, you're not a tree, move.
Oh, I love that.
It's very direct.
Sometimes you just need that.
Right.
A little reminder that you have the power to change things.
Yeah.
You don't have to stay stuck.
We can move.
Exactly. Even if it's just a small step.
That's a good point.
This card is your chance to think about one area where you feel stuck.
Okay.
Maybe it's a conversation you've been putting off.
Hmm.
Or a boundary you need to set.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just saying no to that extra helping of mashed potatoes.
Ooh, good one.
Whatever it is, the key is to take action, even if it's just a small one.
It's funny, right? Because we think of abundance as this, like, overflowing thing.
Yeah.
But what we've seen in these cards is that real abundance comes from letting go, like making space for it.
Exact.
And now I kind of want to know, how do we actually make that kind of abundance? The kind that feels good.
Right.
And not just at Thanksgiving, like year-round.
Yeah, so that's where the Empress comes in.
Okay.
This card is all about that natural, effortless abundance.
Mm.
Think of like a garden that's just thriving,
Okay.
but not because someone's forcing it. It's just happening organically.
Right.
It's not about like chasing after every little thing. It's about trusting that there's enough.
Yeah, you know, it's funny you say that, because this year for Thanksgiving, I went with like a less is more thing.
Yeah.
Instead of making a million side dishes, I just focused on a couple really good ones
Nice.
with like fresh ingredients and everything.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was the best Thanksgiving dinner ever.
There you go.
Like so relaxed and delicious.
That is totally the Empress vibe. It's about quality over quantity, being present instead of stressed.
Absolutely.
And speaking of finding that sweet spot, this next card is all about balance,
Okay.
temperance.
Mm.
It's recognizing that there's a time to indulge and a time to hold back,
Yeah.
a time to go for it and a time to rest.
This card is like a permission slip to say no to that second slice of pie.
Yeah.
Which, let's be real, we could all use a little more of that.
For sure. Especially this time of year, right?
Yeah.
When everything's about overdoing it.
Exactly.
And that brings us to our final message from the Sassy deck.
Oh, here we go.
Are you ready?
Hit me with it.
Stop. Take a nap. You're doing too much.
Okay, first of all, I love that the Sassy deck is pro-nap.
Right.
And second of all, I need that on a T-shirt.
Seriously, though.
Seriously.
How many of us need to hear that?
Oh, all of us.
It's like the universe is telling us
Yeah.
to chill out,
Right.
rest, just be.
This whole deep dive has been like a big reminder that real abundance, the kind that actually makes you feel good, it's not about piling more stuff on your plate,
Exactly.
whether it's food or to-dos or whatever.
It's about appreciating what you have,
Yeah,
making space for what matters, and yeah, maybe taking a nap.
exactly.
So as you head into Thanksgiving, or just your week, really, think about what you can let go of to make a little more space for peace, gratitude, just enjoying yourself.
Yeah, and that could be anything, like finally cleaning out that junk drawer,
Yes.
or saying no to something you really don't want to do, or just enjoying that extra piece of pie.
There you go.
Whatever it is, trust that by letting go of what you don't need. You're making room for the good stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.